Ba-dum.
Hello, but yeah, you gotta wait for me to press the button so you don't echo. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Exotics Radio Podcast. This is Wednesday. It's Comfy Pants Wednesday. I've got the most comfortable pants on, I can tell you what. It has been an interesting week on both sides of the aisle. I know you've got some great news. It's good to see everybody. It's good to see everyone. Holy cow, it was I think it was Friday was kind of a flop, but that's because I started really late. But today everybody showed up, so I'm pretty excited. I hope everybody else is excited. And one thing also I wanted to add, that I forgot to turn up the fan. One thing I wanted to add was, hold on one second. I got a mic in my way. And the fact that I've eaten way too fast, so I apologize for that. If you guys heard that. Oh, well, you guys heard that. I apologize. That was, like I said, I ate way too fast. I was trying to scarf down the food. Yeah, I've been on the run for the last hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that, so I was like, crap. But it's good to see everybody. I see Ophi Spider-Verse. Hey, Rick. Hey, Ophi. Hope you guys are doing good. Stefan Harp is in the house. I saw you giving Ashley a hard time. Don't give my Ashley a hard time. Don't. Be nice to her. I see Mark the Spider. Yeah, she's my Ashley right now. During this, during the podcast, she's mine. Leave her alone. We've got Bailey's Bug Blog. We've got Mark the Spider Guy. Who else do we got? I see some people missing. I don't see Moon over Miami or too many people, but maybe they'll come in a bit later. Or maybe not. I mean, it is Wednesday. So how's it going? How's your new member?
Yeah, my new member's doing really good. I called her, I'm hoping it's her, Ithaca. So it sounds a bit kind of Incan, a bit kind of Aztec-y. But yeah, she's doing really well. She's kind of settled onto the cookbook now. She's not really exploring as much, so hopefully that means that she'll start sort of preparing for a trapdoor. But last night I put in some fruit fly and she didn't really like them. So what I did was I very carefully got her into her safe bit that I've basically made for when I do anything in her enclosure, which I basically treat her like a jumping spider. So I take the foam off. I've got a vented lid from a larger enclosure. She climbs on that, and then very carefully I'll put her down in a container, so it's like a anti-escape. If she does get out, she's got the whole container to run around before I then lose her. So like, I'm really careful with it. And I took the flies out, and then I pre-killed a couple of them and put them in, because the guy I got them off, he was using pre-killed micro crickets. So I'm also going to have a look at getting some micro crickets just so it's used to the food. But he also thinks that she's due a molt soon.
No, I want to say this. For those who never really heard the term, because we haven't used that term very often on the show, a micro cricket is basically a pinhead, or a pinhead cricket. It's very tiny. Yeah. I also see Tony had just walked in. Exploring with Fat Tony. Dude, I love your little videos that you've been doing recently, dude. I just love them so much. You need to do more. I'm just telling you right now. You need to do more.
It's really cool. Like, it's like the really cool, like, Discovery Channel, like, let's go and look at some ruins and that. And then it's just the Brummy accent and just like, yeah, let's go do it. Like, I love it. I'm looking forward to see what kind of content comes forward. Like, the Greek temple is quite a good one.
So you heard that. You heard it from us. Tony, you have to actually, you really, really have to do more, because, you know, we're itching for more. So you've gained two very big fans here. Stefan Harp says he loves your new so-called jumping spider. Now, do you have a camera for her, or are you gonna let her settle down before you show her?
I'm gonna let her settle down. I do have some bits. I don't know. Can you screen share on your PC, like you do on the Twitch? No.
Not really. No, not for StreamYard. No. I need my
I'll go.
OBS.
It might cut me out, but I'll go and try desktop mode, and I'll see if I can share a small video on here. Um,
Okay.
so it might drop me out, and then I might have to rejoin, but I'll give that a go.
If you get dropped out, then I'll just switch to another song. Now, that's something I wanted to tell everybody. The music. We haven't been playing very much jazz, and I originally started with lo-fi jazz or jazz like scenario. And welcome back. I kicked you
Hello.
off. Oh, he might have it.
So
And
I go to videos. I need to go on my gallery. Scroll through all the pictures of Ashley. Find some pictures of the spider.
now you know that that's Love Ashley. He's got more pictures of you than his tarantulas, so or any of his other pets. So I'm just telling you that that's love. Now, if anybody out there has any questions, feel free to ask. If you want to know what kind of tarantula we're talking about the T. Celedonia. Scott had won a contest and got his T. Celedonia, which there was an unfortunate accident in the first one. So I didn't go into detail on Friday because you weren't really there, and that's your story to tell. But I've got my own story to tell. I want to say thank you, Mark. This is particularly going out to Mark and Bailey, but mostly Mark, because Mark actually, he literally sat down with me and we tried to figure out what was wrong with my tarantula, and he was very supportive. What had happened was I found one of my slings in a death curl. They're kind of in that size between a sling and a juvenile, so I just call them slings anyways, but unfortunately, they were kind of in they were really in a death curl. They were just twitching. At the point that I found them, they were barely alive. They were barely even moving. And Bailey's eating. What are you eating, Bailey? Share with us. Share with the world what goodness you've been eating. Consuming. That was the word I was trying to say. But anyways, yeah, I was very distraught. I didn't know what to do. Well, I knew what to do to a degree, but I really didn't know. Maybe there was more that I might be missing. Because when you get to that situation, you can have all the experience in the world, and you're still gonna rack your head, and scrape your brain and try to figure out maybe there's something you're not doing, because they didn't seem like they were getting any better. So I got a hold of Mark, and Mark basically told me everything I was doing. I was like, yeah, but I'm not going to use tissue. I'm going to use a sock. Because in our days my days with the vet, we learned, or not vet, but with the zoo, we learned that fabric holds more moisture, and fabric doesn't dry out as fast. Oh, you got something going on there, Scott. There we go. Now if it'll just play. There we go. There we go. I'm going to.
Just at the bottom.
Oh, that was. I don't know what happened. Scott, come back. Oh, we got technical difficulties. The duo is back at it again. How about this? When we wait until he comes back, we'll do this. We'll play some more music. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll wait until he gets back.
You kicked me out.
And welcome back, everybody. I'm really sorry about that. I absolutely just whoops that all across the board. I was trying to get rid of the duplicate because it was slowing down the stream, and it just kicked all of you. I was like, wait, what? Where'd you go? I see what you wrote there. Me, look at this pretty spider. Cracks. This is Sweden. in the Sparta mode, I guess.
Yeah, in the pit.
So while you get that back up, I'll finish the story. Okay, so anyways, I sat down with Mark and racked my brain, and there wasn't really much we could do. They weren't improving. They weren't getting any worse, but they weren't improving either. And then it felt like they were getting worse. So I made a phone call to the vet and said, what do I do? So she instructed me to make a incubator. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your T. Celedonia. A tiny, tiny, pretty little tarantula.
So for Huayna Celedonia.
Yes, but with your phone apparently going off the hook, I heard all of that. That was funny. That wasn't our audio. That was the audio on the video.
Yeah,
It was probably I 100% bet it was Ashley.
no, I think it was actually Stefan.
Oh, Ashley, you've got competition now. Stefan is moving in.
Stefan was there long before Ashley.
Okay, so to get back to what I was saying, the vet instructed me to make a small incubator to raise the heat. And so I have this heat rock that I have from olden times, not for tarantula use, just going to put that out there. But I wanted to be able to raise the air temperature for a nursery kind of thing. So that's why I have it. And so I put that in there, put the wet sock on top of it, and of course the tarantulas on top of that. And then she said to take the tarantula and soak the carapace, make sure the book lungs are out of the water, and to ensure that moisture doesn't build up around the book lung and we accidentally suffocate the sling. Every 5 to 10 minutes, take the sling out, use a Q-tip, and very gently brush all the moisture developing underneath. And if you do it right, there won't be too much moisture. And so that's exactly what we did. And I kid you not, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours later, there's movement. They're pulling themselves out of the water. I was like, oh, well, hello. And I'm kind of thinking maybe this is the last death throw, kind of thing. And that wasn't the case. I started having to flip them over to see what was going on. And they flipped themselves right back over. So what I did was I basically soaked them against their will every 5 minutes. And then they got a little bit stronger and stronger. And then they were just out on their own. So I took everything out and put a tissue. And of course, they lowered themselves onto the tissue. Now, at this point in time, they went from twitching, not just twitching inward, but also twitching sideways to walking around. And so the walking it was like a drunk tarantula or a drunk man walking around. They couldn't walk a straight line, I'm just going to say that. And then I noticed something. When I don't know if this is every case, but in this case, there was this clear liquid kind of oozing out of the rear end, the business end of, I should say. And then it turned kind of milky white. And then it turned to goop. And so they pooped everywhere. So it took me, the thing is, another danger you have to be careful of is you have all of this goop and all of this poo, so you take that out. And you have to make sure it stays away from the book lungs, because there is a lot of it. Now, this tarantula went down in size. And so, the vet said, you know what, put the sock back in what will happen is changed the picture. There we are. So what it will end up happening is when they scrape the bottom end, that plug will keep coming out. It will keep cleaning itself pretty much. So I put the sock back in. Did that for I don't know how many hours. It was ungodly. I think it was about 3 or 4 hours. And then I finally put them on another tissue and said, all right, you've got your tissue. You've graduated. Because that means, because they were starting to pick themselves back up. And so, long story short, I get a hold of Mark. Because Mark and I have both agreed we've never seen a tarantula go this far out into a death curl and not come back. I mean, it's almost unheard of, and they did. They bounced back. So I want to give a special thanks to the vet for taking the time to give me advice, and I want to thank Mark for the support and sitting with me. And I also want to thank Bailey, because Bailey was also there, helping me, trying to come up with reasons why this has happened. So needless to say, at the end of the day, I had put all the slings around the same age and put them in their own enclosures with tissue, because I want to make sure everybody was hydrated. Because I don't know if it was the weather, because we went from, really, really nice and cool weather to almost 30 degrees in my room overnight. I mean, it hit, and when it hit hard. So I don't know if it was the weather that upset it so much, but the vet and Bailey both think, and of course Mark as well, the vet thinks that it was just a pre-molt gone bad. This is very common with tarantulas about this age. What'll happen is they'll go into a pre-molt, they don't want to eat or drink, and it goes on for too long. And so they end up drying themselves out, dehydrating themselves, and then you've got a sling that up and died and you don't know why. So my advice to you on that is, when your sling stops eating, write it down. Somewhere, write it down. And then every day that they don't eat and you don't see them actually drinking, write it down. And then count the days. So if you have a tarantula that comes up with either a bad molt or a death curl, then you know why. You can count the days and be like, well, it's been 14, 16 days since they last ate. And you don't know when they were drinking. It's not like you can actually sit there with a camera and watch them drink. You're not a lab. You're an actual person. And so, yeah, it was really rough. That whole week was, not whole week, but that whole day was just bad, because, I'd spent all night the night prior. I was playing poker. And that next morning, I was going to get home, and I was checking all the tarantulas, and I was like, I'm glad I did, because I'm pretty sure I would have lost them if I hadn't checked them if I had waited. If there had been any longer of a wait, it would have been bad news all the way around. So I'm glad I checked on them, and I didn't get sleep that day, I'll say that much. I was so scared that something was going to go wrong. And of course they survived. I've been updating Mark regularly on the pictures, and they're out and about, not really out and about. They're underneath their cork bark, and they're pooping everywhere. They poop all over the tissue now. And so you constantly clean the tissue and make sure the tissue isn't carrying the bacteria, because you want them to rehydrate at this point. And I tried feeding them. They didn't want to eat. So, I mean, that is an unfortunate part, because if it is a pre-molt or maybe a sickness, they're not going to eat. And so I just have to wait until they stay hydrated until they molt. So she goes, yeah, welcome to owning a sling. And I was like, yeah, this isn't this isn't anything new to me, but I'm just glad that it worked out in the end. So, by the way, how was your week?
Well, yeah, it was alright. I got my delivery.
Alright.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got my new isopods and that, which was really good. But then Mum got kind of annoyed at the amount of isopods I received and put me on a bug ban. So it's just been really frustrating, because I can't window shop anymore, because there's no chance of me getting anything. But I'll work out some way to sneak something in at some point. But yeah, other than that, it's been too hot. Like, you say about 30 degrees and that. I mean, it's only been sort of mid to low 20s here, but it's just
No,
so
it
much
gets.
more than what it has been.
You have
You
to
know?
remember my room. I'm gonna point this out. It's 22, 23 outside, but my room faces the sun, so it gets 30 in here really quick.
Yeah, I mean, my room's sitting at 27, 29. Yeah, mine's sitting around just under 30 at the moment. Because a
No,
lot of
same.
the reptiles, the pulse stats are still pulsing for the hot side, but there's not a lot of a gradient, so it's obviously quite close to the threshold. The corn snake's not even on, and the boa, I've got the heat turned off at night now because there's no point in even keeping it on. So that's actually getting a bit of a nighttime drop, which is nice for it. Because until I get another heat source sorted for it and get another stat, which I really can't afford at the moment, I'm kind of stuck with having the heat on 24/7 until we hit summer and I can have it without it going down too low. But no, other than that, it's been kind of a standard week. I mean, I spent the day with Ashley today. She asked me to help her water the garden, so naturally, as I'm bringing the hose back in to tidy it all up, I got her and soaked her in that, which was funny. But yeah, but we went on a massive walk today. We went all the way
Okay.
around Hartford and then came back. But there's all these little shiny beetles at the moment. Some of them look a bit like rain beetles, where they're kind of like the dark, inky, shiny colour. And then other ones are quite bright green, but they're all about the same size, kind of like buffalo beetles. But it's quite
Are you talking about
interesting.
like could they be Nightwing? Was it Nightwing or Night something beetles? Kind of the
Possibly.
typical beetles. It's kind of like the beetles that you buy, or not buy, but the mealworms that you buy. Sometimes they'll either be one or they'll be either buffalo or the other one. I can't remember what the other one's called.
Yeah,
But
there's
one
some
can
other.
fly. One can fly and the other one can't. That's about the difference from my understanding.
Hmm.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, I mean, these are
unfortunately,
just like little standard-looking beetles, but there's some of them are quite pretty. And then we've got the mayflies flying around at the moment all around Hartford as well.
we got I can't tell you how many we got here. I've got some of these tiny little moths. The problem now is, I was always complaining that I don't have moths to feed my tarantulas. Now I get these tiny little moths that come in. Unfortunately, they have mites, and I don't want them anywhere near my collection. So I'm trying to keep it bug free at this point. Because what's happening is people are opening up their ventilation, and so that's direct ventilation from outside. And the pool, because there's such pressure in here, the pool it's made to pull fresh air in. It's a really good system, unless there's a fire. But that's a conversation for another day. But they will pull in small insects and small flying insects at that. So you get everything from mosquitoes to the mosquito eaters, small beetles, fruit flies from the trees, and even these small moths. And the cats go nuts for them. They really like them. But I can't say. I don't know what to say. I just I hate it because I'm trying to keep my collection very very insect free, and it's
There's that
pretty
time
hard.
when you think about one of those UV things, but then you'd want one of the ones that were probably live catch. So once they're in, they can't get out, and then you just empty it, and then they come back like a couple of weeks later. So I can't imagine
Oh
you'd
no.
really be allowed in Sweden to have the electrified ones.
Oh no, you can. The reason why is because mosquitoes carry disease, and so it becomes a threat to you humans, so that you can have those.
What's your
Even though
stance
we,
on those as a person, though?
I'm absolutely for them, and here's why: it's because of the diseases that they carry. If they weren't, I can handle getting bit. That's not a problem. I can handle, but the pestering, that's not a problem. What I don't want is I don't want the potential diseases that they carry and deliver. I'm not really too far south of Sweden, so I really don't have that much to worry about. But there's always going to be that one case. There's always going to be that one time, and I don't want to be that one person. I'm too old for that. I won't survive. So I'm for it. just because of the safety reasons. Not to mention they don't really have the impact like windshields do. Windshields have a much bigger impact on the invert world than most people think, and it's inevitable. You're unless everybody just stops driving, you're not going to get rid of them. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to stop a lot of the slowing of species or going not extinct but threatening species. I mean, you have critically endangered bumblebees in America because of the windshields, and that's why they call it the windshield effect.
To remove all the windshields.
No, because in your grill, the grill will take it out.
Everyone needs to ride motorcycles without crap
That doesn't.
helmet. And then the only thing stopping the bugs is your body and your face. Problem solved.
No, sorry, but motorcycles contribute to the windshield issue. The solution would be you'd have to stop driving, and that's just that is not going to happen.
That's never going to happen.
And I will never. I'm one of those people that, some people are like, why are you for fossil fuel? I said, because it supports the economy, it supports people, and it allows people to drive cars and fly. So no, you're not gonna get rid of it.
I'll tell you what was cool with mosquitoes. In the early days of the underground, when they done the tunnels, they trapped a species of mosquito in the underground by accident. And over the years, they became so genetically changed from the terrestrial above ground ones that they cannot interbreed anymore, and they've got their own species. And also, they have a taste for mammals rather than birds, because I believe the initial ones that it came from were mostly like an avian preying species. But then because they went into the underground, obviously their main source of food would be rats and people. So it really changed their ecosystem. It's one of the few cases that categorically prove evolution as a genuine thing, kind of like the finches on the Galapagos, because it shows that in the couple of decades of isolation, they've become so far detached from the above ground that they can no longer intermingle and breed and everything. It's crazy.
No, I'm going to read with the passage here. What you're talking about is the London underground mosquito. It's not found anywhere else, just in London, and it's a form of mosquito from the genus Culex. It's found in London Underground railway system, and as the name suggests, it has a worldwide distribution and long predates the existence of London Underground. So it comes from a different part of the world, but it is literally the London Underground. It's the only place where you're going to find this species, because they're so remote, but they are a distinctive species that come from the Egyptian specimens. And they were discovered by Peter Forskol. Now, I don't know if that is a Danish or if it's a Swedish biologist. It doesn't say, but by the name and how it's spelled, I'm going to guess Swedish. In the mosquito Culex molestus, not molestus, it's molestus, due to its voracious biting, but later biologists renamed it to Culex pippins F. molestus because of their morphological differences between the Culex pippins. Notably, this mosquito has assaulted Londoners sleeping in the underground during the Blitz, and through similar populations were long known. A study in 2004 analyzing the DNA suggested that the Culex molestus, why did they even name this, is likely a distinctive species. Yeah, no, didn't you just say that? Stop. I just love it when they try to rename facts. It's like you just said that. Let's see.
Yeah, pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yep. Actually, yeah, no, it's literally a mosquito that lives only in the underground. They breed all year round in the cold intolerant. It's cold intolerant. It bites rats, mice, and humans. Its contrast above ground species, which is cold tolerant, hibernates in the winter. So basically, unlike the up above ground species that's hibernates in the winter, these guys don't hibernate at all. And of course, most mosquitoes do feed off of most birds. The two varieties crossbred where the eggs were infertile, suggesting reproductive isolation. So, like, again, that you're only going to find them in one place, and that's the Linden Underground. And they're really, actually, holy cow, they are absolutely aggressive. That is their aggressiveness is really interesting.
That's why on a hot day, a lot of people find discomfort in that in certain underground. I think there's a certain few stations that are kind of renowned for like the mosquitoes for fighting people.
Oh no, it's I really. Oh, hold on. I missed some comments here. I was reading. Hey, Grax. Hope everything's going well. I see Crazy Kane has checked out. Take care, Crazy. Hope you're good. Okay, everybody's having a conversation with them. But yeah, I think it's interesting how isolated they became and then became their own species. I think that's actually pretty cool. And yet there is absolutely, physically, there's no difference between the above ground species and them. It's just their basic feeding response, how territorial they are, and the fact that they don't hibernate, they don't sleep. There's no part of the year where they sleep. They breed and produce all year round. So I feel sorry for anybody in those tunnels.
In theory, you could see something similar to that in a hobby situation, though. Because, especially with reptiles, when you're keeping an animal without any kind of thermal cycling in that, if you keep it in a position where it's in the conditions where it could breed 24/7, it might be seasonal in the wild, but then constant in the hobby. And either with reptiles or with inverts and that, it wouldn't surprise me if eventually someone found out that a very, very long line of captive bred individuals were then far removed enough that they couldn't then bring a wild caught individual into that line to progress it. Like, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is like, if you've had this line and it's been kept so far away from any new blood, any new influence for like 20, 40, 60 years or whatever, it's a very, very unlikely situation. But if I got to like 80 years old and still had the same Armadillidium klugi, if I then got a wild caught culture and put them in, is there then the possibility that the same thing could have occurred if I then subtly changed the care and the husbandry of mine and they adjust over time?
No, you would have to have the offspring do that. Yeah, because you would have to have the offspring pass down the new gene or the what do you call it? The slow changes. So you would have to breed them repeatedly. Unfortunately, though, spiders are a weird case. Simply due to the fact that they are. Well, actually, no. Spiders would actually, theoretically, that could actually possibly happen because spiders are known to be born with individuality. Unlike ants or other species, they actually have their own individual personality, if you want to call it personality.
An argument for that would be the cave tarantula that evolved out of having
exactly.
Light.
Exactly. And Scott's Imports has even come into the house. Hey, Scott.
Hey,
I saw your video. I saw your video today. Awesome video. So, ladies and gentlemen, go check it out. It's actually a really cool video. I love it. I love Scott's setups. He does a really good job making setups for his new, well, any of his little babies that he gets, other than his two-legged children. I'm pretty sure 100% that if he had to set up an enclosure for his kids, his kids would have the whole world. They would have nothing for wanting. I will say that much. He'd spoiled them rotten. I'm pretty sure Tara's the one that keeps him from doing it. Tail whips giant clawed. Yeah, no, like I said, it was actually really, really nice. Bailey's bug blog says out. What? Are you who are you telling out? What? Bailey, are you being a naughty?
Maybe he just
Are you
came
being-
out. Maybe he's professing his love for Scott.
Oh, yeah, true. But then Northern Exotics might get a little jealous.
Oh, okay, it'll be like a love triangle.
We're seeing a love triangle happen right here. So yeah, we're just gonna walk away from that one. Bailey, the troublemaker.
Oh no, I think he's just calling me a troublemaker.
Now, I do want to say a good reminder to people that the 20th is the end of my subscription with Epidemic Sound. So for a little bit, there will be no music until I figure out a way to start playing music. Epidemic
So you've got
Sound,
to put
I
up with
really
me
don't
singing.
have... Huh?
You've got to put up with me singing.
Well, the thing is, it's the standalone plays. A lot of people frown on that. And so somebody said that I should just look up YouTube. And that's actually a pretty decent idea. But the problem with YouTube is they don't have a great variety of music. And I don't want
A
to be
lot
playing
of
the
it
same
sounds like
over and over and
BMG or
over.
whatever. Like the
Huh?
easy listening. A lot of it sounds like elevator music as well in their YouTube library. I don't know if I'm looking at
Yes.
the wrong one, but it really seems like it's the bottom rung of produced sound.
Some of it is, some of it is. Some of it isn't, but then those songs are very few and far between, so it's
Yeah.
just, it's kind of rough. But again, I just have to figure out how I'm going to get music. Somebody said that, a friend of mine actually told me to renew my subscription, and then just do what I'm doing now, because they haven't really, said or done anything other than Twitch. And
Not
I was
that
like,
though,
yeah,
is
but
it? You've paid for something and then they've insulted you by saying you can't do what they've told you you can do. So it's kind of
Exactly.
like I'm paying for a service that they might cut off at any point in time and land me with some kind of not real but real enough to scare me charge.
And no, what they'll do is they'll slap me against with a copyright strike.
Hmm.
And if I get 3 of those, I lose the channel permanently. And so, but like I said, Scott Invert says he will be right back in 5 minutes. He's probably gonna go grab a smoke. So
He's having a poo.
no, stop! Don't be like that. That's Ellie does that. Don't do that. Be nice. That's what we do here on this channel. We're nice on this channel.
What's Ashley
degree.
still about? She's gone a bit quiet.
I don't know. She's gone quiet. Maybe she's just listening. Bailey Bug says, when it ends, we can all do an acapella. No.
We'll do the sea shanty.
No. So, well, again, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find music. There's one person that said what I could do is
I've got
try
an
to
idea.
get this to work with OBS and then play basically a music in the background softer than what we're talking, because then what we're doing is we're talking over the music. And if it's a what do you call it? If it's a like like a low-fi or something that's not copyrighted, then we can actually do something like that. So there are some things that we can do. It's a little sneaky, and I'd rather not do it. But like I said, I'm trying to figure out how to do it. But if I can't, I can't. I'm only within my bounds, and I'm kind of strapped for cash. So I gotta do what I gotta do.
We'll just start doing
So-
nursery rhymes, the wheels on a bus and all that lot.
No, we're not doing that, because actually those are copyrighted songs.
Are they actually?
Yes, even "Happy Birthday" is that song is actually copyrighted.
I'll change it.
No. So that's what's going on right now. Like I said, I gotta figure things out, but things aren't always as we seem. Also, I wanted to add that I will be doing live art soon. The reason why I haven't is because I've been working on a screenplay for television, and if that sells, then I won't have to worry about money for a little while, at least. Only if it sells, though, so that's a big if. I am talking to 2 different agencies, and we'll see. I just gotta get it finished first, and then we'll talk more about it later. So let's get back to the inverts. People are here for the inverts. They're here for the tarantulas. They're here for the spiders, and I hate to say it, they're here for the cockroaches as well. I just don't do cockroaches. I really don't. And for the love of me, no, this is my question to you guys. My niece, about 2 months ago, her stick insects died, of course, and she's got now a bunch of eggs. I didn't realize she had eggs, and I sent her a care sheet on how to take care of the egg. But they're growing. Some of them are getting gray. They went from black to gray. Now this is the Indian stick bug. I forgot the scientific term for it. It's a very common, very easy to get type of stick bug. But the fact that she had 2 females and they both laid eggs but then died afterwards, she's kind of worried that maybe she did something wrong. I don't think she did something wrong. I think maybe that's the stress process. I'm not too sure. They're also both were almost a year old, and since they lived to about a year, they were coming close to their lifespan anyways. But she did get a lot of eggs.
They laid eggs over time. Because a lot of stick insects, they'll lay eggs they might lay like 5 eggs every day until they die. So once you'd noticed the eggs, it could have just been that it had laid all of its eggs and passed away. And in terms of like the incubating the eggs and that, as far as I know, you just keep them sort of room temperature, humid. Some species might want it a bit warmer, but I'd say just leave them and see what happens. And if you want the best information on stick insects, I'd say talk to Sam, because Sam's got a lot of experience with the plasmids.
The thing is, it's the eggs that are gray. We're kind of worried maybe that would be mold, and if it is mold, we've got to remove them immediately. But she doesn't know if they're just about to hatch or what's going on with that. And so I told her to put them in a separate enclosure, separate container, and a well-vented container, but separate container, and see what happens. But she's afraid to move them because she doesn't want to hurt anything. She doesn't want anybody to die. And I really would love to see her get some babies, some nymphs. I really would love to see her get some nymphs. So I'll definitely talk to Sam. So if anybody can get a hold of him, I'll let him know that I'm gonna go poke him later. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'll drop him a message on Facebook now.
What?
I'll drop him a message on Facebook for you now.
Okay.
I've got the other phone with me. So.
Yeah. So that's the only thing. Like I said, the care sheet was really easy to follow. And I told her if she had any more questions, to come, poke me, or, if it'd be okay if she could poke one of you guys. I'm pretty sure she can poke. I'm pretty sure she can poke you. She just let you know that she's my niece. She's my brat niece. She's a brat. She tried to do something sneaky, and I think it was hilarious. She is a good kid. Don't get me wrong. She is 100%. But she's no angel. I'm gonna say that much. And she is 18 now. So she asked me if I would translate her speech into English, because it's an English-speaking class. And I'm sitting here thinking, you want me to do your work for you? No. You want me to translate this, but this is something you have to do for school. No, I need to read it for school. It has to be in English, so you're worried about grammar. Yes. And so I kind of got cheeky, and what I did was, I translated it, but I also put a ton of notes on what she needs to change on it. I didn't change a thing. So I told her. She still said thank you, and I haven't heard from it back yet, so I need to hear how the speech went. But I'm 100% certain she really just wanted to be cheeky and have me do it for her, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Oh, I'd have changed something and put put it as like, instead of it talking about like something completely normal, just change it to like, I have smelly feet, just like in the middle. So she doesn't, she sees it, it looks all right, and then she gets to like reading it out, and then she's like, I have smelly feet. But then maybe I'm just mean.
Yeah, that's me. I don't want to. I don't want to make sure that I don't want to get a bad grade or anything like that. So
Oh
what
yeah,
I did
then
was
when in grade school, so yeah. If it was just
yeah.
like a
So what
thing for homework or something.
so Ophi Spider-Verse says, "Gotta run. It was much love. Send you. I love spending time with you, all of you. We love you too, Rick. Give Ophi some extra love for me. And hope you see you Friday.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah. We're gonna probably wrap up in about 15 minutes or so. So it's one of those things. Get some more music for us. Bailey's sending lots of hearts and loves your way, Ophi. Yeah, tonight's not going to be a very long show. I apologize. Normally we have a pretty decently long show, but tonight is going to be fairly short. I have to do all the dishes. It was not my turn to cook. It was somebody else's. That's one of the reasons why I was running a little late. But also the fact that it was also my turn to do dishes. And I don't want the cats thinking the dishes are their little snacks. I'm like, no, you do not need to lick the dishes. Just stay off the counters. And no matter what I tell them, they keep getting on those counters. And, I'm going to start selling tarantulas. So here up soon, I'm going to put up the sale for tarantulas for individual sales, of course. And also I showed Mark what it's like to have a no DWA law. What happened was... he asked me about prices for, reasonable prices, and we're talking about tarantulas. Sound gone? Sound's gone? Wait, what?
Hello?
Everything says I'm talking?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, his PC's got nuts, okay. So what happened was,
His wax tablets on the fritz.
Mark and I started talking about tarantulas prices and all that, and so I said to him, I was like, hey, I know a guy, and this is where he advertises. And of course it's a Swedish forum board for reptiles, amphibians, arthropods, insects, spindlar, or spiders, hi Scott, welcome back. But anyways, what I was showing him was all these prices, and then I see poisonous snakes. And so I was like, hey, you want to see what it's like to, be in a country without a DWA? And I sent him this, and then, of course, I also send, I believe it was Tony Webb. It was either, I sent the list to somebody else, and they're like, I love the Vipers. I was like, yeah, well, they're for sale. Oh, Scott says he's munching on dinner, but listening.
And that's
Nice.
how Craig became the DWA smuggler.
Yeah, that would never happen. I'm sorry. I prize my freedom a bit too much.
It's amazing
And
how
I prize
much
my
they
collection.
want. You know Ham in Germany, the big reptile convention thing?
Yes.
I think that's where a lot of people were getting their DWA and then bringing them back unlicensed.
Yep, it's
so
easy.
it got to the point where they changed the rules in Ham, and you just had people set up in the parking lot with venomous animals and that in their boots and stuff. It was like a car boot sale for like vipers and cobras. And
Yep.
I wasn't there, but the stories I've heard, it's quite surprising.
Well, what they were upset with is when the authorities started really cracking down on those, and people were getting caught, and that got a lot of attention, especially around the Danish and Swedish border, because Sweden, remember, we don't have a DWA law, but smuggling these animals in, that's a whole different story. And we are very we're very
Are you kind of
strict
like
on.
what would it be? Not Australia in a sense, but like you like to keep the animals that you've got in the country, and you're not too keen on bringing more animals in unless you've got like the significant paperwork, etc., and that like you'd
Yep.
get from an actual by the World EU and stuff.
Yep. Because they want to make sure that you get your animals from a responsible captive bred breeder. They want to make sure there needs to be a paper trail.
It's too easy
Even
to
when you
just
buy,
kidnap a baboon viper and then sell it in a car park. Yeah,
exactly what they want here, what they want to do is that you need to show proof. Because as I said, we don't have DWA law, but the government can walk into your house anytime. So it's like, here you go. Here's all the paperwork for these animals. And this is all the receipts. This is where I've bought all the animals. And people have been known to keep their receipts for up to 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And it's basically what it is. It's just proof to make sure that they don't go to jail. Or, because some of these species can be sketchy because they're kind of rare to get a hold of. Now, pythons and boas are not an issue. Remember, we really don't care unless it's a endangered species, or if it's a threatened species, or if it's an invasive species. And of course, snakes can't. We're too cold. There's no way they can become an invasive species. And the one snake that we do have here that can become an invasive species is already here. So it's like, nothing you can do about it. But they don't want you taking these animals out of the wild and then putting them up for sale and then shipping them out of the country. They do not want that. So you have to prove that I forget the name of it, but I want to say it's a European viper, but it's the only it's the only venomous snake that we have here. Yeah, the adder, yes. But you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yes. And so what they don't want, I guess in other parts of Europe, they're quite popular to have as a pet. And what we don't want is people going and take them from our own nature and then selling them. So you have to have them as captive bred. And you have to prove that they're captive bred. And by doing so, that means a paperwork trail. But when it comes to cobras, we know that they're all bought here. Because we have such stringent laws on the borders. So if you have a cobra that's not known for having been bred in the country, they'll want to know where you got it, and they want to know where the paperwork is, and they'll want to follow all of that paperwork trail. Now, what they can do is they can take your animal if you got it from a breeder that cannot prove that they've captive bred it, or cannot prove that they got it from a captive breeder themselves. So say they said that they brought in this, they did all the paperwork and brought this snake from over the border. I apologize, it's the weather changing. So if they can't prove that it came over from the over the border, and they've got all the paperwork with it, then a lot of questions are going to be asked, and there's going to be a thorough investigation. And during that time, the animal is going to be taken away from them. And then if the investigation proves that they basically smuggled it, then they go to jail pretty much for a very, very long time, and the animal goes to a rescue. Unless it is a threatened species, then it can be either sent back to the country or it will be destroyed, depending on the health of the animal. So yeah, we have very, very strict laws when it comes to that. But again, we don't have a DWA because we believe that if you want to handle these dangerous animals and you want to put yourself in that position, that is all up to you. Is the animal getting tortured? No. Is the animal going without? No. So the animal is being well taken care of, and how you handle this animal is all on you. That's all. They only care of the welfare of the animal. That's all they care about. So. Scott Invert says DWA comes through DPO or DPD and poly boxes unchecked. Oh wow, that's interesting. And then Tony Webb says the amount of times we've been asked to supply DW species to unlicensed keepers is unreal. Yeah, see, that's sad. I just do things right, people. I know it's a pain in the butt. I know it's rough. I know it's expensive, and if you can't afford to get a DWA, then maybe you shouldn't have the animal, because those animals are expensive, and they're kind of spendy to care for as well. So there's that.
It's the extra that you need to put in. That's where the expensiveness comes. It's the price of the license, but also the caging's not a straightforward cage. It's
Yeah.
got the rules because it keeps everyone alive.
Yeah, well, the thing is here, it goes down to animal welfare, so it's still expensive here. Across the board, it's expensive because, again, you have to make sure the animal comes from a reputable breeder. You have to make sure that the animal was captive bred here in Sweden, unless it was brought over. And if it was brought over, you have to make sure all of that paperwork's taken care of.
Hmm.
And then on top of that, like I said, the government can walk into your house. I know it sounds silly, but we'll use my collection as an example. Maybe a listener of mine doesn't think I'm doing a very good job in taking care of my tarantulas. They call up the Swedish agriculture and say, "Hey, I'm a listener to such and so's show, and I don't think they're doing a good job. Can you go check on the welfare of these animals for us?" They are obligated. They cannot tell you no. They are obligated to go to that house. And then what they come and announce. They don't call up to make an appointment. They just come knock on the door, and you don't have a choice. You have to let them in. They are escorted by police, and then they do their proper inspection. That's where the price comes in, because if they don't think I'm doing such a good job, they will order me to, in so many days, I have to pay a fine. And in so many days, I have to buy everything that they think this animal needs. Not what experience says, but what they think. Think about fish tanks. We're not allowed to have certain types of fish tanks because somebody who probably never owned a fish before in this type of a tank said, "Oh, they don't have a place to hide. You can't own a round-edged fish tank." So if you have a fish bowl with a goldfish, you lose your goldfish, you're heavily fined, and then you're stuck with the inability to ever keep a pet because you've tortured an animal. So that's where our country kind of goes a little bit over land. They kind of go into left field, is because people who have never really owned these animals before have this thing in mind of these perfect specs for this animal, and it's like that's not always how it works.
The snake doesn't have a squeaky toilet. It's not kept right.
Exactly. Okay, so let's see what the audience has been saying. Tony Webb says cobras can be kept in standard vivariums. It's legal. Scott's Invert says, "Hey Tony, whip scorpions you sent are amazing and in perfect condition. Maybe we should have Scott on, but I'm kind of weary. I'm afraid I'm gonna get a hard time." Tony Webb says, "Locked on the cages, scientific name on each enclosure with warning of injury/deaths. 2 doors between the snake and the public. And most keepers keep DWA snakes in a run-of-the-mill enclosures." And Bailey's Pugbox says, "Tony is a legend hero." See, like I said, those are rules over there, but here they really don't care, unless somebody gets injured. But it's very hard because you can easily call up the hospital and call up your police, and on the non-emergency number. I want to put this very clear: non-emergency. And then say, "Hey, look, my cobra got loose. I have all of the paperwork. You can come over, please check. But I need to find this animal first and foremost. I don't know where it's at. And if it gets a hold of somebody's pet or child, they're going to die. Instant. I mean, just put up and said instantly die. They'll look at you like you're mad that you've lost your mind and wonder why you have such an animal. But they have to come over and help you find the animal. Because it becomes a public safety at that point. But there's no laws.
Fluffy.
Exactly.
Yeah, fluffy,
Exactly.
fluffy.
But they don't. The thing is, they again, that's up to you. And I'm sure there are laws that I don't even know about because I don't keep hot snakes. I really don't. But I can't think of a keeper that keeps them and keeps them irresponsible. I really can't.
Probably because the keepers that keep them irresponsibly die.
Well, I think it's because of the money as well. They're not
yeah.
cheap. These guys are not cheap. Comparing prices, I think they're actually cheaper. If you did have a DWA and in the UK did buy everything and bought the snake, I think you'd still be cheaper than buying one snake here. That's not including everything that goes with it that you need to have with it.
Quite possibly. I mean, in the UK, I mean, I think it's a boom viper. Typically, from what I can remember, I don't think they were much more than Royal Pythons, like in price. I mean, I don't even think. I think some places they were under £100 at one point. And then you look at
Okay,
the
hold
green
on.
tree python, it's like £400 plus.
No, let me hold on. I can actually get you the prices right away. Let me.
I'm
Yes,
not 100%
I'm
sure on
I'm
the
already
UK.
I'm already signed in. Okay, so let's see this.
I'm not sure if House of Venom are a DWA UK, but I know House of Venom. A lot of people have said that they're quite good.
That doesn't tell me telling me the price. That just tells me. Okay, so that just tells me that they've been sold. Come on now, I want to know prices. Give me prices, people. Okay, here we go. Vipera amodites, Donalis.
Vipera Maria Donnelly.
It is a viper of some sort.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I just can't think what it is.
They're about 700 kroner each, and these are young. So
That's €70.
yes, but I'm
You can
looking
get a posh
for.
corn snake for more than that.
I'm looking for the more venomous species. More venomous species generally don't have prices on them because, if you're asking about the price, then maybe you. Oh, here's another viper. It's for 1,200 kroner. But these are really small vipers. These aren't even close to being adults. 6,000 kroner. For something the size of a snuff can.
Oh, what can?
A snuff? Snus?
No idea what you're on about cracks, but
It's
I
chewing
don't
tobacco.
think it means the
The
same as
little
what
the
it
little
is.
container that goes into chewing tobacco.
Oh, okay. See, we don't have that here. I think in the US it's called dip. DYP. Then
This comes in little tiny packets that you put underneath the lip.
okay. See, in the
Yeah,
UK they're
but
similar, but it's not quite as legal, and it's usually well,
a viper born in 2018, no price.
House of Venom had a
Again, no price.
Mantan viper at one point.
Yeah, if they're having a sale, they're usually about to 1,800. But if there's not in sale, they're between 5,000 and 6,000 kroner.
Hmm.
And these are just the vipers. These aren't even the cobras. I'm trying to find a cobra, but I cannot. I do not see one. Oh no, I do. I see a cobra. But they don't tell you the price. That's always fun. It just tells you. It's a bunch of pictures. It tells you the sizes of all these, the ages of them, but that does not give you a price. And it tells you if it's sold or not. So that's probably why it doesn't have the prices. But yeah, they're not cheap. They're not cheap at all. Somebody's looking for an Atheris. But almost all of these are vipers. I don't really see any cobras for sale yet.
Price of the king cobra.
Okay, so let's see what the audience has to say. Ashley says there's they wish their animal people would be a bit tougher and they would not. They're tough, but not that tough. Bailey's Bug says if he was an item in a video game, he would be /gold or orange that signifies his level. Oh, you're talking about the tailless whip scorpion. And let's see who we got here. Tony is talking about the snakes. Cracks, the pictures I sent you the other day. Oh yeah, I love those pictures. I'm not sure I want to talk too much about them. I didn't know if I could or not, Tony, because the thing is, they're yours. And I wasn't too sure if I could talk about them. Tony Webb says the monocle cobras, the spectacle cobras are €45 to €55 each. Yeah, but see, that's super cheap, because I know that is super cheap for a fact, because one of the now hear me out, because one of the cobras that I know went for almost 9,000 kroner, which is €900. And now most of these are less than a year old, so that should tell you a kind of a round range. But vipers are pretty cheap because they're pretty common. But I still don't think a 500 kroner animal is cheap. Sorry.
500 kroner is only 50 quid.
No, 5,000.
5,000.
50. So I meant to say €500. Sorry.
Yeah, because 500. Well, even €500. That's a green tree python. You know,
Yeah.
I think the fact you can buy a royal python for a couple of grand, but you can buy a viper for like 500 is crazy. You
Well,
know, I
see
think the easiest way to make things as safe as possible, without getting all the people that want to keep venomous animals really butthurt, is to make them prohibitively expensive. You know, similar to how other things are regulated in that, where if you don't
that's
want
funny.
someone to have it, you make it absolutely over the top expensive. So you can sell these animals for like €5,000 each, or 50,000 kroner it would be, but no one's got it unless they really, really work for it. And then that way, if you've got to that point in time, you're either a criminal, so you'd have one anyway, or you've worked your ass off for it. You know, selling them for the same price as a corn snake doesn't really stop the incentive of getting. But then, would you then still get the black market of you'd have people selling them for the same price they used to be sold at, and then no one would get a license? It's swings and roundabouts as to the best way of doing it, and I think BWA works to an extent, but Sweden works to an extent. It's something you'll never have a handle on it unless every venom snake is microchipped and kept in a database. But even then, there's nothing stopping a smuggler bringing one in without one, and it just goes completely under the radar.
I'm looking for the green tree python that was. That's a boa.
I believe
Dang.
Anton breeds green tree pythons, but in most shops in the UK they're about 450 to in excess of 500-600. I've not seen a green tree python for under 400.
Okay, so how much does a ball python go for? A royal python?
A royal python, I would say, well, anywhere from like £25 up to 10,000, 15,000.
Depending on it depends
so
on
stupid
the.
with the morphs. You know, it's
Yeah,
the exact
because
same thing.
there's
It just looks more colourful. It's worth more.
Well, there's a friend of mine who does sell pythons, royal pythons, and I'm looking at this list right now. That was pretty easy. And these are morphs. Don't ask me which morph is which, 'cause I have no idea. I don't do reptiles. I do tarantulas. So they go for anywhere from the cheapest was 2,000 kroner, which is about 200 euro, all the way up to 4,500 kroner, which is about 450 euro.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and the one to look out for with royals is never get one that's a spider because the likelihood is it will have a neurological issue.
oh, okay. Now this other person is selling more morphs, everything from 3,500 kroner, which is about 350 euro, to 6,000 kroner, which is about 600 euro, and it's a banana
Yeah.
pastel.
And that's for what?
A banana pastel for 6,000.
What, a royal python?
700.
The motherfucker?
Yep, it's 754 grams.
That is crazy.
Well, like I said, getting snakes in Sweden is
But then
not
the
cheap.
original
It's not
albino,
easy.
when it was sold in the US, I think was a few thousand. Like the original albinos and that coming out of Africa, I think they were going for a lot of money. The original spider was 25,000, I believe. They certainly weren't cheap when they were first introduced, but
That's a
that's the
pastel
unfortunate
clown.
thing.
Okay, this is. Do they have the price? Yes, they do. Now, this one is actually pretty interesting. It's the Voxen. Oh, I'm sorry. The Voxen is the Swedish. It's a G oxycephalum. Geoxyphalum?
Oh,
It's the.
Oxytesphilum. The Goniosoma oxycephalum is the oh I can't remember the trinket snake. It's an Asian rat snake.
Yep.
It's not a rear fang as far as I know, but it has a
Nope.
very picky temper. And they're kind of
Yep.
the closest you'll get to keeping DWA without the DWA. So like a
DWA.
lot of people
Yep.
get them as a trainer for venomous because you
Yep.
need to be on your toes. But they're beautiful snakes. They've got blue
Yep.
eyes and a green and yellow tint going down them. And some of the gales have like a bluish tint sometimes as well. So they're kind of like boom slangs, but not venomous.
Yep. They're about 4,800 kroner, so 480 euro.
Yeah. See, that's not too bad. Oxycephalums are really worth it, in my opinion. I'd much rather that than a popcorn, butternut squash, peanut butter royal python. By the
And
way,
a lot of
completely
people are
made up.
looking. I don't know what they're trying to do there. I don't see anything. I'm trying to find a green tree python, but nobody seems to have one for sale. Everybody keeps looking for them, though.
Morelia,
Okay, so there, I found probably one of the most expensive snakes on this list, and it's interesting. Now, this is a from February, so this is an old ad. I'm pretty sure they still have up for sale since they haven't taken it down yet. It's a snow conda, a snow conda. It's
yeah, so that'll be a
basically
Western hognose.
yes, but it's white,
Yeah,
completely
so
white.
basically, it is a it's kind of like when you take away the anery, which is the no erythristic. So the pigment for browns or I think that one's for yellows. And then you've got hypomelanistic, which is your blacks and that, and then you've got also what's it called? Amelanistic, which is basically no melanin or
No,
anything,
this
and
one is
you mix the
pure,
two
almost
more together.
I want to say this is almost pure white with red eyes, so it's a 100% albino. This is interesting.
Yeah, so what
But
it
you
is,
want to
it's an albino mixed with an anery, whatever the anery would be called in a hognose, because it takes away the blacks and it takes away the yellows, and that's how you get the white snake.
Do you want to know how much they're asking for?
I would say probably about three. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's about €3,000, maybe 1,500 to 3,000 upper cost.
Close. It's 20,000 kroner, which is about €2,000.
Yeah, yeah, they're so
Pretty
variable.
close.
And if you get a super Arctic, and you mix it with a snow, or you do like a super Arctic super Conda, it goes crazy. Like, you can get some that are like so expensive. But hognoses they're like the new ball pythons, they're the new royals. The morphs coming out of them, they make so much money out of. Like, it's crazy. Corn snakes are just corn snakes. There are very few corn snakes that you make a lot of money from. But hognoses, they are the new royal.
So they're like the new ball pythons coming out.
Yeah.
No, I'm still looking for a green tree for sale. Again, most people are looking for them, but nobody wants to sell them.
Yeah, I mean, if you type in I'm trying to think.
You got to remember, I will have to translate it to Swedish, because this is a Swedish site, so I'd have to. Now, this one is a weird one.
Green tree pythons, they're probably quite hard to have in Sweden, actually, because they're so fragile. If you looked on a German website, you'd find them a lot easier. Because Sweden, being the area that it is, it's probably quite hard to keep a green tree python there.
I wouldn't know. Again, I don't do the reptiles. I do insects and I do my spiders. I do my tarantulas, and I do inverts. Let's just put it that way. And I do cats. Now we are coming up on our hour and a half show. Let's see. Any last remarks? We'll see. We got Michael Taylor, who had snuck in and I didn't see. Hey, Michael, how's it going? It's good to see you. We also have Scott's inverts talking about yellow babies. Michael Taylor says tarantulas and inverts, for me, am not allowed to have a snake. Mrs. will be scared of them. That sucks. I'm sorry. Tony Webb says the emeralds are very pricey. Okay. Tony Webb says Bob Clark bred the first CB. Bob Clark. Why did I know that name? I know that name from somewhere. Albino Burmese pythons for 10,000 way back in the day. Now they're €195. Oh, that's a lot of money. Totally in the wrong type of business. Michael Taylor says that's probably why it was a gift. He was talking to somebody. Ashley says there's a question. She's got a question. Let's see what's the question. Might be a silly question. It was a movie thing, so probably silly. So the movie I saw snakes get defanged and it died. Does that actually happen? Yes. It's torture to an animal, and yes, they do die. You have to understand fangs and venom are part of the digestive system. Their stomachs cannot actually break solid food down. It must be dissolved. And as it's slowly dissolving in the stomach, then they get the nutrients. That's what the venom does. Also, it's a great defense, self-defense, and a great way to, how do I put it? It's not just self-defense, but intimidate. It makes you leave them alone without that. That's why we always call it a dry bite. But yes, removing a fang, defanging an animal will literally kill it. There have been some successes, but in keeping an animal like that alive, but that's generally because they have animals that they've brought in from they have their own type of cobra. So if another cobra bites it or something, then they can actually milk the snake and inject the venom into the animal and then feed that animal to the snake. It's a long, tiring process that should never happen in the first place. So I'm 100% against defanging anything. It's just right up there with clipping a scorpion's tail. They call it, it's like removing the stinger, and I forgot what they called it. It was very common back in the 80s and 90s, but people realized what they were doing. And countries that eat them...
Scorpion can't eat anything without that venom load break down because it destroys the tissue. Whereas with a snake, you can often eat the food and digest it, but it helps the digestion. And the main thing with snakes is they end up severely deformed, and it still doesn't give you a surefire way that the snake stays alive and stays healthy without you being at risk of getting killed. Because, like Tony Gibb said, they can regenerate a venom gland, and also if it's not completely removed, they can still have a venom gland. And quite often, the fangs will grow back 100%, but the venom glands are normally what's taken out. And if it's not done 100% right, then there's still a venom load and you're still very at risk of dying. So it's very poor because when you see venomoids, cobras, they look so weird and so deformed because they had these big venom pouches taken out.
Scott Denver says, defanging, would that mean that every meal is assisted? Until the fangs grow back, like Scott said, but if the venom sac is removed, yeah, it has to be assisted, or they can't digest it entirely. It's very, very bad on the animal, because you have to understand the venom is part of the digestive process. It's as simple as that. Like I said, it's pure abuse. I 100% against it. And like I said before, Scott had interrupted, because I'm pretty sure he's pretty sensitive about the subject as much as I am. The countries that eat scorpions will clip the stringer, and that's because they're about to eat them and they don't want to be stung. But back in the 80s and 90s, they used to clip stingers on scorpions because of the fact that it was like, oh, we've removed the stinger on this animal. It can't sting you. It's not dangerous anymore. And of course, the animal would just starve to death. And so it's a death sentence for a scorpion. It's a death sentence for a tarantula. In some countries, they will clip the fangs off the tarantula before they eat them. And some pet stores started doing that, thinking that it would let the animal sell faster. That practice came and went as fast as it basically disappeared as fast as it came into practice. So for tarantulas, they didn't really end up with the problem as much as the scorpions did, and that the practice of that happened throughout the 80s and 90s, which was really, really, really horrible. Good night, Mark. It was good seeing you. I'm glad you came by. And of course, we're going to wrap things up here very soon. So, anybody else got any questions? Ashley says, well, I knew that was bad, obvious, but I didn't know they were for digestion. Hope no one would actually do this cruel. Actually, in India, they do. They still do. That's one of the things that the Indian government and conservation will tell you. Please don't give money to snake handlers on the street. Most likely the animal has been tortured in some way, shape, or form, and you're just paying for that animal to get tortured. In some parts of the country of India, they actually worship snakes. In some countries of in India, they don't worship the snakes. They exploit them for money, and that usually does not mean very good care for the animal. Don't even get me started on snakes. Was it snake stones or something like that? What they do is they take these pretty little smooth rocks from the river. They make small incisions in the skin of the cobra, and they'll stick the stone underneath the skin, and then let it heal up, and then to demonstrate the power of the stone from a snake for a so-called deity. They'll remove it for a price to the tourist. So literally, you just paid them to torture an animal. That's basically what it is. So so what people would do in India, the conservation and the government groups have really started to crack down on street performers doing it, but they can't stop it. So just don't do it. Don't pay for it.
So what stage will I know the sex in my celadon before we wrap up? Because obviously on the picture in my avatar, it looks like a female, but obviously that's its sling coloration. It's not got its adult.
Oh, this sucks. Tony Webb says they used to use toenail clippers on centipedes. I remember that. Please tell me they stopped doing that. Because that is just so wrong and horrible.
I didn't know centipedes had toenails.
Come again? You didn't know that what?
I didn't know they had toenails cracked.
Har har har. He's talking about the fangs. Yeah, they grab what they would take the toenail clippers and clip the tips.
Mm.
Yeah, it just kills me to think about it. Scott's Invert says, do they live afterwards, Tony? Tony Webb says they wouldn't be able to use their venom if it was due to a molt. If it was due to molt, then it could regenerate, but that would take a few molts. So the chances would be high for dying. Yeah, see, I have to agree with Tony. He's 100% right on that one. Ashley says, good. By the way, I didn't mean to ask such a harsh question. It just popped up. No, Ashley, it is a very good question, and thank you for asking it, actually. Because, people tend not to know what kind of questions to ask, and that is actually a very good question to ask, and it brings a lot of awareness. Something we like to do here on this channel. So, thank you for the question. Anybody else have any more questions before we take off? I have more. I have a full dessert with my name on it, and I'm gonna go eat it. Tony Webb says it's a good question. Yep, see? Even Tony Webb says it's a good question. It's a very good question. When can I sex my Celadonia? When they molt. Oh. Go eat. I will go eat. But a little bit later, I'm okay. Okay. It's just calling my name. That's all. Usually they look dimorphic, but the size, do they get to adult colors? Yes, actually they do have adult colors from my understanding. They become a bit more white in plumage and color, but that is pretty much the females. I'm not too sure about the males. But you can always sex them. I would invest in a microscope. There's actually a microscope for sexing tarantulas, and it actually hooks up to your phone, and this would actually help you even sex your jumping spiders. Scott, I don't know why you went quiet. Why did you go quiet? Why are you asking these questions through the chat and not on the? Did you mute yourself? No.
Yeah. Yeah, I accidentally muted myself. No, my jumping spider's super easy to sex. My Sotochus senicus that I got the other day from the garden is definitely a female because it's about 1.5 times larger than the male that I released, and it hasn't got the massive boxing glove pedipalp. And then my Jerry jumping spider, which is the regal jumping spider, he is 100% a he because he's got cute little green fangs, and when he rubs his little pedipalps, it's like super cute now. Even Ashley thought it was really cute when I showed her. She actually loves him. So I was just wondering, because the male Celadonia, it looks almost like a C. versi, but with the more Celadonia-like bottom, and the carapace is a different colour, but the legs are like a emerald green. and then the
Yep.
female looks like my sling.
Yep.
But I don't know
There you
how quick they get dimorphic, because I don't know if all of the slings for Caledonia look the same and then they start getting adult coloration, um, or whether, because it's not a spider that you wouldn't be able to sex it if it was a subadult or an adult, because they are like day and night different.
It's actually a really good question. I don't know enough about them to answer that. I just know what the females look like, little powder puffs. They look, the plumage is really cool, especially on the back end. They look very pretty, like you said, your sling. The males tend to be really spindly, almost
Yeah, they're
way
quite
too
leggy.
delicate for the. Oh, they look so delicate. But it's a delicate species, so I honestly I couldn't tell you. I do know that the female's legs are white. That much I do know, but I'm not too sure if the
Yeah,
males
they're kind of like
are as well.
pinky. No, with the females, they're kind of like a pinky whitish color, and then they're blue at the tips, and then the males are like this metallic blue green. They look like a GBB or a Diamantinensis, in terms of like the leg sort of color. And then they've got like a green carapace and a red and orange thumb.
Okay.
Or I should say abdomen. Same as instead of saying butt fingers, I should call them spinnerets. So I've got to get
Okay.
into the terminology. But yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
they were
Well,
like
then you answered
really
your own.
different.
You answered. You pretty much answered your own question. You might just have to wait until they mature.
So I just wondered
Um,
if my one at the moment is gonna look the same as it looks now as an adult, or whether the slings all look like the one that I've got as my avatar, and then they'll change over time. Because obviously, looking at my one, it's set up to be a female, but I don't know if that's the case. That's the main question. I don't know if anyone in the chat's got the answer.
Oh, okay. Not too sure. I know Tony just went to bed, so Tony says, have a great night. Got centipedes to sex, and have a great night all. Have a great night, Tony. Scott's inverts. Who's eating cracks? The purple people eater. I have a you know. I'm polka dotted, Scott. I'm not too sure if you've realized this. Oh my goodness. All right. It's getting late. So I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank you, Scott, for being on here. I really appreciate it. You know, it's Wednesday, so I always enjoy our company. And you've got a T-Saldonia now. I'm so happy for you. And a little
Yeah.
bit jealous. Just saying.
Wow.
Just saying. Just a little jealous.
so
Just a little. But if you breed them, you realize you do have to send me one. I will fly to the UK to get one.
Maybe. But
You're like, maybe.
why would I sell you one if you're such a good friend? That's the real question.
And you don't have
already
to.
paid
If you
for a
want to give me
flight,
one,
you paid for the spider.
if you want to give me one, that's fine too. I'd be more than happy to. Just got to figure out how to get back.
For you, I don't see why I'd charge you. As long as you bring me some cookies or something, or like if your mum makes a really nice cake for me, that'd be good.
Oh, you know what? I'll just bake a cheesecake right then and there for you at your
Awesome.
place. See,
Okay.
there we go. Cheesecake for a tea Solidonia. That'll be something. But anyways, thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Love you all. You guys are great. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Scott's Inverts. Mark the Spider Guy, Bailey, and everybody else who had been here. Thank you so very, very much. Now we're going to play our one last song. I know I played some jazz tonight. It's because we don't play enough jazz. We really don't. So I'm a little bit... last week I was on a swing kick. This week we're on a jazz kick. So we're going to play one last song for you. And again, thank you all for being here. And thank you, Scott. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Alright. Thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
And I just want to say one last time, thank you everybody for being here, and I will see you next week. Take care. Sorry, Origi, you missed the podcast just a little bit late. So anyways, you guys have a great night, and I will see you Friday.